Coach Teeden, we're back.
Yes, sir. I think we're really in the flow of things right now. I feel pretty good of how things are working at work, and I mean, gotten practices, a couple of practices in. I think we're flowing pretty well right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting close to time where it's time to it's almost go time.
Right.
We're almost in season, so we're excited to get going. Tonight's guest coach is big time, man. We try to get coaches, we try to get people from different walks of life. Tonight we have a guy named Adam DeMong. He is two things. He is a head high school coach at a high school in Illinois, and he is also the director of the Under Armour Rise program, Grassroots. And it's really going to be a neat thing to talk how he balances those positions and just all the little intricacies of those things. The neat thing about him, his background is he's kind of done it all. He has been a college assistant. He's played at a high level. He played at Boston College as a player, and it's just really cool to have you. So Adam, welcome. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're pumped. I can't wait to get into some of your accolades and your awesome season, the way it ended this past year. I can't wait to hear about that. And so let's get going. Coach, how are you wired?
Thanks for asking that. Thanks for having me. And I think that's a great question. And as preparing and thinking about it, I thought there's a few things. I think I'm wired for teaching and for development of young people. And I think that that extends in a lot of my career. But I'm just interested in teaching kids how to grow up. I'm teaching them life lessons about things beyond the basketball court, teaching them how to work hard, and then teaching them lifelong lessons that they can take with them for the rest of their career. I like developing them as people. To me, I think that if I were to just focus on wins and losses, my career wouldn't be very fulfilling. But if I understand how I've helped people and allowed people to develop and grow from their freshman year to sophomore year and on to the varsity and on after high school or after college, like that really, is fulfilling to me. I think that goes for me in my career and in my coaching. Like I want to try, anybody that comes across me, I want to try to help them figure out how they can develop. What do you want? Coaches on my staff, what do you want? You want to coach in college? Do you want to be a head high school coach? You want to be an assistant on the varsity? You want to be the head freshman? What do you want? I'll help you develop. I'll coach you up. I'll be honest with you. But to me, teaching and development are, they're kind of running through my veins. And then like the last thing is, I'd be honest if I didn't say that I wasn't selfish in wanting to feel fulfilled with helping people. And whether that's helping a kid get better at a skill, whether it's helping a kid make the team, or whether it's helping a kid go on to college, or helping somebody within my professional sphere, get a new job, like that's incredibly fulfilling to me. And that makes me the most happy beyond, any single win or loss. But that's kind of how I'm wired.
I love what you did with the word selfish there. Often that word is used as, a negative connotation, but you're selfish in wanting to help people, which is fantastic. And development. Who are some of the mentors in your life that developed you, Coach?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the first mentor in my life was my dad. I lost my dad when I was in high school. But he taught me so much about life, about how to work hard, how to be humble. He was I wouldn't say he was blue collar, but he was a go to work every day and grind out. And I learned a lot from him. I learned how to deal with people. He was very good at that. I think the one thing, to be honest with you, that I lacked in my life is a true basketball mentor. I think what I've done in my career is taken like a little bit from everybody that I've come across. I played for Al Skinner when I was in college. I walked on and played at Boston College, and the staff when I was at Boston College was incredible. So Al Skinner was the head coach. Tim O'Shea, Bill Cohen, and Ed Cooley were the assistant coaches, and the director of basketball operations, a guy named Pat Duquette. So all of those guys went on to be very good Division I coaches. So I took a little bit from each one of those guys, and I learned from Coach Skinner. You know, he thought strategically, and he didn't overwork, but he really focused on what he worked on. And you know, I think that a lot of times in our coaching careers, we overthink things, or we overwork on silly, non-important things. He taught me to really focus on, you know, what matters. You know, I worked for Tim O'Shea for 2 years at Ohio University. He taught me a lot about recruiting, a lot about evaluation, a lot about, you know, kind of being a coach. I was very young when I was, you know, working with him. And then since then, I've worked with, you know, I see Bill Cohen a lot out, and Ed Cooley. These guys have had tremendous success in their career, and how they've done things. Like I've really watched that. Worked for Jim Weitzel for a few years when I was at Loyola. He was you know, how he dealt with people was really good. Patrick Baldwin was a tremendous basketball coach. I mean, I think like I've never had like one guy that if I'm in a pinch I call, but I've had a lot of guys that have given me, you know, this sliver of help when I needed it.
So Coach, you're at a school that doesn't have a huge basketball culture success record. And if anybody was to look at your team, they'd first off, I think, look at your schedule and realize you're playing some really, really tough teams on a day-to-day basis, which is admirable because so many coaches try to schedule. I mean, again, we all have different reasons why we schedule. And what's really neat is you can explain it, but it seems like you really got rolling at the end of this past year and got yourself fairly far in the playoffs in Illinois. Can you explain about that journey and that ride and how that culture has been building in your years there?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, you know, I'm at Montini Catholic High School, and it's a small Catholic school in the Chicago Catholic League. Now, the Chicago Catholic League is a historic league. It's got great teams. It's got guys in the NBA. So in Illinois high school basketball, there's 4 classes. 4A is the biggest, 1A is the smallest. And the Catholic League has members of each one of those classes. So our school is about 600 students. So we're going on the road and we're playing at schools that have 2,200 students. So a lot of times we're just, before the ball even goes up, we're at a disadvantage. But we got great kids. We've got great tradition in other sports. They've won football state championships, baseball state championships, girls basketball state championships, but they never did it in boys basketball. And I'm local to where the school is. And I thought, you know, why not? So when I took the job, it was 2020. It was about May of 2020. And in that time in Illinois, COVID had shut down a lot of things. So it was like, you know, trying to figure out how to operate in a very, you know, tough environment where I couldn't even like get into school very much, couldn't do a lot of basketball stuff. But the first layer of my building of the school was to re-recruit players that had stopped playing basketball because they felt like it was not a winning culture. And so I recruited 2 kids back to play. One was a cross-country runner who did a really good job. And the other one was a kid named Esteban Moreno, who ended up his senior year all conference in football, all conference in basketball, all conference in baseball. And he's the starting second baseman at Notre Dame, and he'll probably get drafted in the MLB, you know, draft in 2 years. So like that kid was 6'3", you know, tough as nails, hard-working kid. He should have never walked away, but I got to re-recruit him back. So all of a sudden we had an influx of talent just from our own building. And so, you know, kind of re-recruiting those guys to go with the people that were there, you know, that was my number one goal in year 1. And then in year 2, it's to grow the program numbers up, get more kids playing varsity, get more kids playing sophomore, get more kids playing freshman, and just breathe life into it with people. And then, you know, in year 3, it was like I developed a feeder program and, you know, kind of like urged our guys to get better and play more guys in traveling ball. And so we've kind of taken these steps in the right direction. And my second year, so it was the first year of the state playoffs, we won a regional title. You know, in Illinois, that's kind of like the first milestone marker. It's you win kind of the first week. We won the first regional title for the first time in 39 years of the school. And then the kind of the year that you're talking about is last year, we won another regional title. So we did it in back-to-back years for the first time in school history. But what I'm most proud of the second team was that this last year we were 4-22 in the regular season. Now we took our lumps, man. And I'm talking some of these Catholic League schools, they didn't take it easy on us, but we had a group of seniors who just like refused to end their season before it was officially over. And then when we got into the state playoffs and we played teams that were, you know, our size, we were incredibly competitive. And it's just, you know, kind of the steps we took. We built some confidence within our program. The kids felt like they could win if the playing field was level. And we didn't have to play the 4A and 3A schools. We could just go and play the schools our size, and we could beat those. So the year before, you know, we had won, I think we were 14-16 going into the playoffs. And I remember talking with, you know, the head coach of one of the programs that we played in the state playoffs, and they were 25-4. And he said to us, and he said, "Man, you guys are really good." I said, and I kind of looked at him like, you know, you're just kind of trying to play me here at the start of the game here. He goes, "No, I looked at your schedule, man. The teams you play, you know, you guys are ready for this moment. Your record isn't indicative of that." So we're just trying to build. We've had playoff success, which is really cool. Now pointing toward this upcoming year, we're kind of hoping we have some regular season success and then build on some momentum in the playoffs.
Was it hard for your team to realize that, hey, we still could make a run in the playoffs? I mean, were they confident in themselves going into that moment, or was it a battle? Was it a selling point for you and your staff?
I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest. Like I tried every coaching thing in the book that year. Like, you know, you show them tape and you yell at them, and then you show them tape and you love on them, and you show them a highlight tape to show how good they are, and then you play wiffle ball. You know, it's like I tried everything. I think what it came down to was there's a couple seniors, and they weren't even like the heavy rotation guys that just like refused to quit. And I give them a ton of credit that they never quit. And I don't know if we had confidence necessarily in ourselves, but they refused to quit. Like they refused to look at 4 wins and say that's who we are. And, you know, we won 3 playoff games by a total of 7 points. We weren't like, we weren't, you know, going into the thing and all of a sudden we were the Lakers. Like we hit a 3-pointer when the game was tied with 1.5 seconds to go to win the first round. And then we held a team scoreless to the last 30 seconds to win in the second round. So it was, I think they trusted each other and they were confident in each other. But I don't, you know, I think it was just like they refused to quit. And I'll forever remember that this senior class, because they just didn't want it to end.
It's amazing.
Now, is this which Laker team are you talking about? That your team's not the Lakers? Are you talking about this year or Showtime?
The bubble Lakers that won it. Yeah, the bubble.
Okay, just checking. So what's this year having? I mean, I know you don't know, but you wanted regular season success. Are you returning a lot of decent players?
Yeah, we were really young last year. I mean, we in our senior class, like last year was just okay. Love those guys, but just okay. And I had 5 sophomores on the varsity. You know, I played 4 juniors a lot. So we're returning 8 or 9 guys that are, you know, battle tested. Like, you know, we got our, you know, our heads kicked in a few times in the Catholic League and we learned from that. So I have a level of trust in these guys, and that's who I am, and it's who they are too. So I like our group. I think positionally we have the right pieces. I think our seniors are stepping up. And this time of year, to me, you know, in the fall is time for seniors to kind of, you know, step up and start to build something. You know, you can't wait till senior day for seniors to make an impact. It's got to be, you know, it's got to be the whole school year. So I like where we're at. I like our talent level. And you know, I like the pieces that we have.
How many games do you get out of your Catholic league?
Shoot, we just added 3 teams this year. I think we play 15.
Right. So then out of that 15, then you play in your level, whatever state level you're at. I'm trying to get a better understanding of how that works.
Yeah. So, you know, you play the regular season and you can schedule however you want. And then once the playoffs start in here, it's like mid-February,
right?
Start to play, you know, our class is 2A. So we start to play 2A. Like you guys had Rob Brost on from Bolingbrook.
Right.
They're
Right.
4A. So once playoffs start, he could win a state championship and so could I.
Right.
I mean, I think they're much more likely to win than we are, but and we've seen him, you know, we see him at Christmas, you know, in the same tournament. You know, the past couple of years we haven't played him, but you know, we're in the same event. And I'd rather the kids play fun games against hard teams and guys that are going to play in the NBA or whatever, as opposed to like, you know, games that nobody cares about. And but I've done a better job in the last year of scheduling some games we can win because there's a lot of hard games in our league.
There's legendary coaches in that Catholic league, so you're dealing with some heavy hitters.
Yeah, really, really great coaches. Tom Kleinschmidt was from played at DePaul. He's a phenomenal coach, you know, and you know, Gary DeCesar, he was a longtime Chicago Catholic League guy, came down to Florida, was a little bit, and then came back. You know, Tom Livatino at Loyola's, I think he's the most senior guy. He's a really good coach, and that's the fun of it. You know, is you're going against really good coaches. How I built our program is, and a little bit of my background is I worked with a guy who later on in his career worked with a Jim Boeheim, you know, kind of, you know, coaching tree person. So we 2-3 zone. And so I'm not like, I grew up as a man-to-man guy and loved man-to-man defense. And I just looked at our team and said, we can't come out here in the Catholic League and play you guys man-to-man and win. So we zone. And now it's not like we just like say, oh, stand in a 2-3. Like we play a 2-3 zone that has really specific rules. And like if the ball goes here, we do this. If they run this action, we do that. So we have and throughout the course of the game, we make adjustments based on how they're doing it. But, you know, I've gotten in games with some of these really good coaches and they've kind of like had trouble solving our zone. And so it's leveled the playing field a little bit, you know, not enough in some cases, but that's, I think, why we have playoff success is, you know, figuring out our zone with the end of your season potentially on the line is a little bit more challenging.
Oh yeah.
We have a prominent Catholic high school in our area that runs a 2-3 zone very well. And they've been doing that for a very long time. So,
and that's what I ask is like, and this is what I always talk to coaches about is like, if you had one possession against a man-to-man, you could probably draw up 10 things you would do, right?
Right.
Get your best player over here, do stagger for this, ball screen that. But if you're playing against the zone, most coaches like late game situation encyclopedia is a lot smaller. And so you find that they're just really going to rely on their players to make a shot or make a play. And so, you know, if you can key in on their best guy or 2 guys late, you know, I like our odds. And that's what's happened in the playoffs in the last few years is, you know, teams couldn't make enough plays against it late. You know, against really good players, it's hard for 32 minutes to really squeeze them. But it's kept us competitive in a lot of games against a lot of good teams. But there's rules to it, man. We, you know, and we talk about, we have terminology. We have, you know, every set that I run, you know, like how we teach it in the preseason is I'll put in an action and then we'll like kind of guard it for the day. And then the next day put in another action. And it's like the top 5 actions that we see. So now we have in zone offense, and we're guarding the top 2 or 3 things. But like, you know, I go back and watch tape, like teams, if they need a basket late, it's hard to like really go in your coaching encyclopedia and find the one that's gonna get you a basket.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, obviously, because, well, I was thinking, just people's, they're puckering up there. You got to make a shot. You're in the state tournament, or I mean, in any game for that matter, any sort of tournament or competition, and you got to make a shot. And I also was like, that's why people, and I know this, but people play underneath out of bounds. They play the zone because they know people have 14 underneath out of bounds plays or a few that they like to run. I've been really studying the Joe Gallo Merrimack zone. And I really like some of those principles. I think there's some Syracuse principles in there. But it's really interesting to hear him teach it and then break it down with your own guys. And the basis of it is sounds silly, but you teach your kids, hey, what do I teach you to do? And then their job is to anticipate, you want to go high low, right? So you need to sprint back and make that high low pass, steal that high low pass, or have your hands up and make it a lob pass, or all those little things. Just always think about what you're taught, and that's usually going to be the right answer. So I totally get it.
I'll have to go look at the Joe Gallo stuff and see if it can help us. This is the time of year when I'm, trying to tighten up what we do and figure out what fits for us. So I'll have to, because our personnel changes every year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We don't have a grade 5 right now. So maybe there's some stuff that Joe does that, that can help us.
I'll send you some podcasts he's done that really got me turned on. And then he did a breakdown with Slapping Glass recently. So I don't subscribe to their extra stuff, so I don't get to see it, but I might be able to find it somewhere. But I wanted to kind of talk about, you mentioned it in our pre-talk. So coaching high school basketball is not your day job, huh?
Correct.
So what is your day job?
So I work for a sports agency that's contracted by Under Armour, and we build out their grassroots leagues. So when high school season wraps up in February, March, the travel grassroots season starts to go, and that's what we do. So we have in Under Armour, we have 2 different leagues. We have the Under Armour Association, which those teams are sponsored by Under Armour with varying amounts of cash and product, and they play in events. It's similar to the EYBL of Nike or the 3SSB League of Adidas. And so a few years ago, we thought of the idea to build out a secondary league that it's kind of these teams that aren't quite sponsored, but are really good. They could be sponsored if there were more spots or the politics of it, whatever. So we call that league the UA Rise, and I'm essentially the commissioner of the UA Rise. So, throughout this time of year, I'm having calls with different traveling team programs from all across the country to try to bring the best teams we can possibly build together to form a league. And our whole, kind of like business model is that the UA Rise plays at the same building as the UAA, our sponsored league. So if I'm a college coach, I can come to an event run by Under Armour, and I can see 2 teams from the UA Rise playing against each other on court 5, and on court 4 is 2 teams from the Under Armour Association playing against each other. So, we have a group out of Tampa called Skills Center Elite, and last year they played 16U and 15U. So they could be playing against the team from Illinois called Breakaway. And, it's 2 great programs, have a phenomenal game. And on the next court over is SOH Elite from Miami against Atlanta Express, from Georgia. And a college coach, he comes to our event and he can sit at one court and watch both of those games and see a ton of prospects. So to me, it's a league that helps good basketball teams play good basketball and helps kids get recruited probably a little bit higher level than maybe they would if they just played in regional or independent events.
What year is it of the Rise program?
So the first year was 2019, and then obviously 2020 was, had to pause. So 21, 22, 23. So we've had 4 official seasons, and then, but it's gotten better every year. And from my perspective, I think like there used to be an event in Atlanta called the where we played our Under Armour finals we called it the Open Division of the, and so we would invite teams to play in the Open Division, and teams from all over the country would come and play in that, and it would be a great event, and teams could wear Nike, Under Armour, Adidas. It was just kind of wear whatever you got. And so in 2018, they said, well, let's build the league for the following year. Here's, you have 0 spots filled, start calling people. So I started by calling all those teams that had started to participate. And the deal of the league is like, we charge them a small fee, and then they have to buy and wear Under Armour gear. But for every dollar I ask you to spend on that, we're going to provide value with good basketball, in the gym, and get these kids seen and recruited. And so in 2019, probably the bottom half of the league was just okay. We had some really good teams. We had a lot of Division I players. I think we ended up with 60 plus Division I players in the league. And then in 21, it was better. And then in 22, like the bottom started getting better, and the teams that struggled, kind of opted out, or, we added really good programs. So by 2023, I think there was a lot of great programs representing almost every state, and just good basketball areas. So it's been fun.
So how is the selection process to get in the UAA or the UA Rise?
So first with the UAA, like there's a committee of people that works on that. A lot of guys I work with, some internal people with Under Armour. There's 6 or 7 people that, that kind of work to select those teams. And throughout the past few years, it's been who are our best UA Rise teams. Like those teams have kind of proven that they can do it. But there's always connections to different, colleges or different professional players, or just good programs that are coming up. Then to get into the Rise, a lot of it goes through me. And what I ask for is like, I want to see your resume. I want to see like what players you have. I want to see what wins you have. We want to build the league with good teams that have a proven history, and not, I'm not going to build the league around some guy that says they have a good player, or, says they have this and that. I want to know what you have. So I just kind of ask teams to tell me like, all right, who'd you play? Who'd you beat? Who do you have? Are they getting recruited? What part of the country are you from? And I think our UAA is in a lot of different cities, and I love trying to fill in the other cities that we don't have a UAA presence, like Nashville. Like we don't have a UAA presence in Tampa. So, or Chattanooga or Grand Rapids, Michigan, Colorado. We were in Denver and Salt Lake for a while. We didn't have anybody. Portland and Seattle. So to me, it's like geographically, I try to paint a picture, but I'm trying to get the best teams possible. But it's like, it's hard because I have to say no to a lot of really good programs. And at the end of it, it's like splitting hairs. Like, who's better here or there? It's just, it gets to be a lot of hard decisions. So I try to get as much information as I can get, but it gets really hard.
Are there times where you have a team in your association and you're like, I don't know, guys, I don't think this is the place for you? Are you having those tough conversations with some of these teams, or how does that work out?
In the association?
Or no, or the Rise
Yeah,
program?
no, and both. I mean, I think that, like I wouldn't be the person to have that hard conversation with a team in the Rise or team in the UAA, the association. My counterpart with Under Armour would, and he does that. So, and we offer, if anybody gets kind of like, released from that league, they're available to join the Rise League if they want to. But yeah, I have to have some hard conversations with some teams in the Rise League. My goal is that the 48th best team can compete with the best team, at least in a good game, a close game, competitive game. Because if we're asking these teams to, get on an airplane and fly to Phoenix, I want them to get the best, most competitive games they can get in Phoenix. I don't want some guy that stinks just because I have emotions about him, to be continuing. I want everybody to be kind of worthy. So there's programs that have been with us for a while that are just kind of like, they're ready to make a change. There's some that I kind of have to make that change for them. That's not a part I like, because I like building relationships with these guys. And, I love basketball, love watching guys coach and helping out kids and things like that. But it's incredibly competitive industry. So like, I've got to stay on it. Like sometimes it's got to move on without you.
Sounds like when we are having those hard conversations with our players,
yeah,
and we're making the decisions on who makes our team, like we have those relationships, we care about you, but this might not be the place for you, or you plateaued or whatever. I mean, everything you said it goes back to the coaching aspect of it. So that's pretty cool. So you must be a master developer of relationships. And the reason I say that, if people listening don't know, Adam was on a list of the 100 most influential people in college basketball. And that list is not a light list. It's big. And I recommend people looking it up, because I'm not going to get into the names, because you might not know some of them, but you're going to know a lot of them and who their organization with. So can you explain how important it is to create and develop relationships with so many people that you are dealing with on a day-to-day, yearly basis, whatever it may be?
Yeah, I mean, like, I was fortunate that, that a guy that I work with, kind of was in charge of making that list. So it made me feel really influential. But, I think like I've always been a relationship person. I think it's what I love about coaching. And I think it's what has made us successful at the Rise, is like, I'll call you back. And it's almost a fault of mine that like I keep in touch with everyone, whether it's email or text or phone call. But I think like from an Under Armour perspective, like everybody wants to be sponsored by Under Armour. So, having somebody call you back is incredibly, fulfilling to them and important. Whether I eventually tell you no, or I let you into our league, like I'll give you time to shoot your shot. And so over the course of the years, I've developed relationships with a lot of grassroots teams, a lot of college coaches, a lot of high school coaches that, want to build relationships and get their team out there. I'm not somebody that's into burning bridges. So, I keep relationships warm. Like I spoke earlier of a team from Nashville, like the team from Nashville, they called me for over a year. And I remember, talking on the phone with those guys for an hour at a time for every month. And I felt like, we built a relationship that was good. And what I think is important when teams come in is building that level of trust. And, trust is earned in droplets and lost in buckets. So like it takes a lot of texts and emails and phone calls to build trust. And that's what I'm trying to do. And, I just think like building relationships with a lot of people is really important. And the guy I work for, his name is Pat Coombs, and he's been, like he's a guy that you never know who he is. You couldn't pick him out of a lineup, but he's been in grassroots basketball since we were in college together and graduated in 2003, and he knows everybody. But it's like he's slowly built those relationships, and I just think like, building relationships with people that are, like we all talk about when you talk about networking, you always talk about like, you're looking up, like who's a high value person that I can network with. I want to call so-and-so, he's famous. But like at the same time, like networking is like helping the people that are trying to call you too. And so like I just try to answer every call and be a great relationship builder, mentor to people that are starting out in their career, because those people, sometimes hop over you in your career, and I'm asking them for help now. But I just think like building relationships and networking and communicating, you know, it's I like doing that stuff. I mean, I could be digging a ditch. I'm doing basketball like 24 hours a day. Like I could have a worse job. Like it's been great. Yeah.
For sure. What advice would you give to that grassroots startup program that has the vision that once they want to join the Rise program, they want to do more with the program? What advice would you give that startup?
I think the first thing that you've got to do is like figure out who you are and be yourself, right? Be your identity and be you are in like a really small circle. And everybody wants to say like, oh, I can go get this kid and he's in Tampa, and I can go get this kid and he's in Orlando, and oh, I can get this kid and he's in Jacksonville. And my thing is start in a neighborhood that you're from, or a high school or a region, and just like really kick butt there. And, you know, have a culture, have an identity, build a program, and then, you know, play teams in your area and win. And then the next step, like when you're starting to get into my crosshairs, you need to start going to events where you can play really good teams and compete with them. And like in the grassroots space, it's challenging at times, because during these live periods where NCAA coaches can go there, you know, Nike's got a league, Adidas has a league, Under Armour has a league. So you can't play those teams. They're kind of spoken for. So what you've got to do is find the weekends that there's really good events that the college coaches can't be there. And you got to like buddy up with the tournament director and say, can you play us against that really good team? Can you have us play that EYBL team? And, or, you know, if it ends up being bracket play, you got to kind of hope you advance in the bracket and make some noise. Because I think that at least how I look at things is I value winning and I value competing, because our league is about that. Our league isn't about potential pros. It's about like really good ball. And then once you get in our league, then you can say, all right, we're playing really good ball. Maybe this Rise thing allows you to attract a kid or two that wouldn't come to you. But, you know, I think you got to start with winning your area, then winning your kind of little region with gameplay, and then go play some people. And I look at scores of events. You don't have to beat all the teams, but if you play a good team, I want to see a good score. I want to see a close game, or you know, you guys make the Final Four of a hard bracket. You know, you beat somebody that is known for something, or a recruit. But that's kind of what I look for.
Man, you're speaking a foreign language to some people, because you're valuing winning
right,
travel. Like, what are we talking about here? What is this?
And that's what, you know, these leagues, these guys call me and say like, I got so-and-so, can I get a sponsorship? And I was just like, no, respectfully, no. But it's, you know, I think that I have a lot of issues with the industry that I work in, and the fact that we don't value that bothers me a lot. Right. And, you know, I think that's like the high school coach in me, that like I'm at the end of the day, I love basketball. I'm not enamored by highlight tapes and clicks. Like I want to see good ball. And I think that's what college coaches want too. So if that's that's part of the market I gotta build toward, then I'll focus on doing that.
I think it's funny you say that, because I think a lot of the world has gotten misguided when it comes to, you know, and the guy from Oregon said it this weekend best, you know, people are fighting for clicks and we're fighting for wins. And I think when you look at and I don't know a lot about the circuits, but when you look at the Nike circuit, your circuit, Adidas circuit, it's kind of the best teams. It's not so much the one, you know, I can bring in this kid from here and bring him from there. It might happen, but it seems like it's the teams that have been that way for a while. And so it is neat to hear you say that, because so many people they want to do everything based on the exposure guidance. And they're saying, hey, come play for my team. I'll get you exposure. And in the end, you know, you're an organizer of these events and you want to see teams that are together for a long time and can develop into a winning program to have a good product for you. And then in essence, hopefully the UAA.
Yeah. And I just like this narrative that like high school coaches are supposed to dislike traveling team coaches and, they all, talk trash about each other. Like, I hate that narrative. And part of the reason is like, I watch some of the guys on our circuit coach, and they're really, really good coaches. And like, they just work in travel basketball. Like, you had Rob Brost on, and he works at USA Basketball with a guy that's on our circuit named LJ Goolsby. LJ Goolsby is an incredibly successful salesman in like medical sales. He just has always loved basketball. He could be a head coach in college if he wanted to. He's an incredible coach. Every year I get X's and O's from him. And like, for some high school coach to point the finger at him and say, you're bad for the game, I don't think that's fair. But at the same time, there's a lot of coaches that I coach against in the Catholic League. These are great coaches. And I know their players play on different traveling teams. Like, there's good coaches in grassroots. There's good coaches in high school. There's bad coaches in grassroots. There's bad coaches in high school. And I think that I don't like when they point the finger at each other in this general way. There's good ball out there at every level. And I hope that for the sake of the kids that either, every player at some point, either it's their high school or their grassroots program, gets a good coach that can help them develop, get better, get recruited, whatever that means for the kid. But I see great coaching on both sides of it. And it's frustrating when they point the finger at each other, that saying that, and there's a lot of like, there's just more teams in grassroots that do a bad job. That's what it gets, the bad name. But, and I've seen those too. And those are the ones I don't entertain to take in our leagues, but there's a lot of good ball out there that goes kind of like unnoticed.
How many teams are in the Rise circuit now?
I take 48 at each of the three age groups, 15U, 16U, and 17U. And I treat it as three individual puzzles. Right. So like, you could have a 17U only, you could have a 15U only. We have a league that's for 8th grade and lower called UA Future. So right. Teams that are coming up in that league, kind of like start with our Rise League at 15U. So maybe that's their oldest team, and they, they kind of graduate up with us. But like, we hold it pretty tight at 48, which, that 49th team, that's like, first one out in Joe Lenardi's bubble in March Madness. Like, I hate telling that team they didn't make it.
What's the next step for the Rise circuit? What do you envision? You said you've kind of gotten better each year. What's the next step for you guys?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I mean, I get fulfilled when teams from our league get promoted into the Rise. I think I'd like the teams to continue to be noticed nationally. But I honestly don't know. That's a really good question to see what the next step is. I think that I fight for its credibility every year. So just establishing more credibility for the kids and the programs involved would be a win. But I don't know. I'll have to think on that one.
Have you
call
guys
my boss and to give him this big
Well, as long as you give me a little bit of credit, I guess.
Yeah, I will definitely.
Have you guys used Synergy at all in the Rise events as well, or?
Yeah, and that's I think that one of the more incredible partners that we have. So Synergy's obviously been an incredible partner in the NBA and in college basketball, and toward the end of my college coaching career is when it started to creep into the lower levels, D2, D3. But yeah, Synergy is a great partner, and they film all of our games that are at the main site, and usually ones that are off site, which is a tremendous tool. So if I'm a team, and I think like people don't understand like the recruiting, dynamic, but college coaches follow around certain kids in recruiting, and a lot of times the list in July is very short. So they may be following around like 5 kids. But there's hundreds of kids playing at our event. So, if you're JoJo Phylon and you're playing in a Rise event and you get some game tape, a college coach can go back in and watch those clips of just you. Could take them 10 minutes to watch 50 clips of him and get a quick evaluation and say, yeah, like that article was right. Or yeah, I trusted my eyes when I watched him for that quarter of action. So like the ability to go back after the event is over, I think is an incredible tool in Synergy. They film everything and they break it down by possession, by person, statistics, tendencies. It's an incredible tool to help these kids get recruited, and our coaches are able to use it in terms of like self-scout or opponent scout. It's a little bit harder in the grassroots space. When you play 2 games in a day, you can't really do a scout like a high school can. But I think it's a tremendous tool.
Yeah, we're getting it at a small level here with some of our schools in high school. Billy's doing it, I'm doing it, a few others. And then we talked to a assistant coach at Queen's University, and he talked about they're using that now as a recruiting tool, just the analytics part of it, not even the video portion, but the efficiency of a player will then determine, hey, we need to maybe look at the clips, or we need to, like you said, our eyes didn't deceive us. So it's pretty cool that y'all are in on that. So I want to ask you here. So how do you know you've hit a home run with an event or a program you bought in? How do you know, like, when are you pumping your fist that you got it right?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I love watching teams that we've brought in and play in other events and give really good teams from their area or another fits to say, when we bring in Skills Center Elite and they go play in a tournament and they beat up on an Adidas or a Nike team, like, to me, that's incredibly fulfilling. When I watch somebody who nobody knew about in recruiting come into our gym and, all of a sudden college coaches like, who's number 21 on that team? And by the end of the event, everybody knows who number 21 is. And you see after the event, you see offers coming into that kid. That's incredibly fulfilling. When I talk to coaches afterwards, and they're just saying like, thank you. That's fulfilling to me. I kind of know when I see, like, when you go to the game in the event and you see there's a great crowd of college coaches watching a team play, that to me is incredibly fulfilling, because I can't make your kids get recruited. I can't make college coaches watch, but when they do, I know that that's really good for their program and for their kids. So like, yeah, I smile in that moment 100% and kind of know that, that those were the right teams and those are the ones that belong. And, but yeah, it's like, I'm somebody that's like, like when you talk about your, relationship with your family, like my love language is appreciation. So like when somebody says thank you, like that, that we did good, or, we have all these calls coming in and this kid got recruited, that's fulfilling for me. So it doesn't have to be, an article on the front page of Sports Illustrated. It just has to be like these guys realizing that it's cool and saying thanks.
With the shift with the live periods now, and we're changing the live periods now to more in that June area where they're with their high school teams. Do you think there's going to be a shift in the Under Armours, the Nikes, the Adidas to have a little more influence in the high schools? Do you see that coming that way, or what's your opinion of that?
Yeah, I do. I think Nike's getting involved a lot with prep schools, and they've started their own league, and things like that. I think that I'm like, I kind of sit on both sides of the discussion. Like, I love the grassroots stuff, but I'm also a high school coach. I love that. When I coached for 4 years at Division II, and what I loved about the Division II calendar was I could go to a kid's practice in March. I could watch him play in a traveling event in April. I could go to this event. I could go watch him play Memorial Day. I could go to a high school shootout. So I could see him at a lot of different points. I could see kind of where he's headed. So I love the high school live stuff. And I wish all states would participate. I think there's a few that are still kind of stomping their feet. I don't know how that affects our space. I think what we're getting more nudged out with is the transfer portal. So, on the front end, we had in 2023, we had 2 events in April that college coaches could come and observe. And we felt like our attendance was down from 2022 and 2021. Or I guess we didn't have April in 21, but from 22, because college coaches were more interested in the transfer portal. So the NCAA is going to adjust those live periods back a little bit and kind of give April to the colleges to do the transfer portal stuff. But I see more getting pinched on that side of it from our Under Armour perspective than the high school stuff. I think we can exist, grassroots wise in May and July, and I think June should be for the high schools and only the high schools. And that's not me as a high school coach speaking. That's just like as a basketball guy.
What does Illinois have a high school live event?
Yeah, we do a couple. We do something live on both weekends. There was a really, really good shootout here that used to be at the beginning of June, called at Riverside Brookfield High School. And they moved that back, and that's always been live. And it's one of the best live events in the country. And, all the good schools from the area playing that. The guy who runs it does a phenomenal job. And then the next weekend, like the High School Coaches Association, has also allowed, events to be certified in the following weekend. So, we have not been able to get into Riverside Brookfield because we have a nice program, but we're not to that caliber yet. But we were able the last, 3 years to play in the second live period at the whatever high school it was. It changed this last year. But Illinois is pretty active in that space, to have good events in both periods. Our program just played in the one, but it was the right amount for us. But Illinois is they probably play as much as any other state.
I don't know if you're allowed. You bring your boys down to Florida. We have them, and I think we had a little bit of space, even though I think we could accommodate more. And I don't think we got as many Southeast schools we thought we were going to get, because just Georgia's is massive, and there's a bunch of different other options.
Yeah, I think Georgia does a good job. And I'll bring my suntan lotion down. I'll bring my Speedo. I'll come down there. I'll bring the boys. You'll
love it. There's a Dave and Buster's right next door. It's big time. So yeah. This is a kind of silly question, but one that maybe would be interesting. So I can't think of all of them, but Notre Dame is the first one that comes to mind. They were on the football last night, and I saw the big U on there, the UA. Are Under Armour schools, are they kind of required to have somebody at your events, or is that just kind of not really a thing?
It's not really a thing. I mean, I think we think about how we can interact with those guys and be a good partner to them. But, we understand that they need to find the best players they can possibly find. But yeah, there's some good Under Armour schools: Auburn, South Carolina, Northwestern, Notre Dame, Maryland, Utah. So
you're leaving one out. I don't know if you said good programs. You left one out. Did you mean to leave them out?
Who did I leave out?
Stop, Joe. You're killing
Boston College.
But Boston College is not Under Armour anymore. That's
got them out. Get them out. Yeah. You had to have that conversation.
I thought I was talking about your alma mater or something.
Oh, no. I thought, so who are they? When did they stop with Boston? When did they stop?
They're New Balance now. So New Balance has made a push in the space a little bit. But I think Under Armour does a great job, and we try to help those guys out with evaluations or connections, and we talk about it with our programs. But I think that they've got to find the best players they can. We just try to put on the best events we could possibly put on. And hopefully that the players that our grassroots programs attract are the ones that the colleges want. And, obviously a heavy Baltimore, base for Under Armour, like Maryland is, has a lot of help in attracting kids to campus and stuff like that. But we try to look out for those guys, but it's not like you have to come, or we got to give them like a throne to sit in or anything like that at the event.
Here's your crown.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I thought, Joe, you were bringing up USF. I didn't know where you're going with that. That's what I thought you were bringing up.
Does anybody want to sponsor them? I mean, it's like,
oh Lord,
BSN. They pay
Joe.
Yeah.
Listen. I went to USF.
I know you can say it as an alum there. It's
and my daughter's 10, and after she was born, she's born in June. So I want to say, I don't know, sometime that September, they played a game. We put a cheerleading outfit on Maggie, and they lost to McNeese State. My wife's an FSU grad, so we said never again. I made that decision. Never again am I going to trust my daughter in that cheerleading outfit. So it's taken a while, and they're still on the outskirts for me.
I got a deal for you, Joe. When Florida plays Florida State, you guys can go visit, and she can wear a Florida State cheerleading outfit. We'll try to do it again. Okay. So I'll tell Stan you're heading up that way.
I mean, it stinks that you are speaking Florida in the same breath as South Florida, but I guess that's where we're at right now.
That is.
So Adam, you've been awesome. Sure. And one thing you got me going on when you were talking about the good high school coach, good travel coach, bad high school coach, bad travel coach. I think a lot of it, the thing that eats me up is the misleading that seems to be prevalent in our world of high school and grassroots basketball. It's a lot about the misleading of and I was talking about, you heard me talking of a story, but when you came on the Zoom, is that people will do anything and use kids as the pawns to make themselves look good. And that's where my frustration lies, is the misleading. So I want to ask you though, is there anything that bothers you immensely in your grassroots space or in high school basketball right now?
I think I have two answers to that. And one would be in the grassroots spaces. And I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's like misleading people. So this time of year is especially challenging because like every team is going to tell every kid that they have $1 million sponsorship and they're going to get all the best everything. It's misleading to the kids. So then a kid who goes from like a program that really coaches them up and really cares about them and has done a lot for them leaves to go to a new program because of lies and being misled, and it doesn't end up being what they thought it was. And my major frustration is that, and I describe this to every call I get on with new people, is that there's a lot of traveling basketball teams that trick you. And the problem is every year it's like a new group of people getting tricked. It's like rarely do you ever see the like second basketball player in the family get tricked. Right. But there's all these parents, like their oldest is Johnny Jumpshot, and Johnny Jumpshot gets misled saying, oh, come over to this because we're sponsored by Adidas, here's a pair of shoes, when they're really not. And he like kind of burned some bridges, and now he's out. Now he's going to have trouble. But like they didn't know any differently because this is the first time they've gone through it. So every year there's a new group of people getting tricked. And that hurts me because like I've been on the phone with families that are considering playing on the UA or the UA Rise or with these teams, and kind of like I've let them know that that's common, and I've tried to tell them that this is people are going to trick you, like be aware, and then you still watch and they pledge their allegiance to this new team and get tricked, and it falls apart. So that's what frustrates me on the grassroots side, and on on the high school level. And what has frustrated me is that everything lately has been centered around like college recruitment and playing in college and, you know, the next level. And if you really look at it, there's very few people, college play, you know, kids that are in high school sports that are going to go on and play college basketball or college football or college whatever. What we try to do at Montini is really value the high school sports experience. And we talk about multi-sport athletes. We talk about, you know, training hard and giving everything you've got for your team in season and going from there. I mean, we currently at our high school, our football team is 5-0. And what that means for my basketball program is 2 of our top 7 guys are probably going to miss the start of basketball season because they're still going to be playing football. And like, I'm not asking them to quit football. I'm actually told them I'll be in the front row at the state playoff game cheering them on because like I care about them as people, and that memory of maybe playing in the state football championship is like the coolest memory they'll ever have in high school sports. Like, who cares about college school up the street recruiting you? And like, I think like really valuing the high school sports experience is important to me. And a lot of times people get lost in like, or what scouts are coming to watch me, or how can I get my highlight tape to this guy? And, you know, I think like just having a good time playing football and then putting the pads down and picking up the basketball and working my butt off to play basketball and then putting the basketball down and picking up the bat and the glove. Like, I think that's cool. We got a lot of multi-sport guys, and I think that's a really cool thing that sometimes I feel gets lost.
Amen. I completely agree. The loss of the high school experience is, I mean, they'll never get it again. So I'm with you 100% on that. And it's disappointing because I really think we can sell the kids on it. I really do. I think it's the outside influences that have the most persuasion on that. And it's unfortunate, but I love what you said, Coach.
Thank you.
Well, Coach, thanks for coming on. I'm so excited to share this with the world. You're so much knowledge, so many different hats you wear that how you're juggling it all is beyond me, because I know you have a young family too. So that's pretty, I'm right there with you. So it's really, really cool. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun. I mean, I'm lucky to be like, you know, to have a job that I can do basketball all the time. And, you know, I got to balance a lot of things, but like I could be, you know, pouring concrete or digging a ditch or, you know, shoveling snow. Like, there's a lot harder things I could be doing, but I appreciate you guys having me on. I've listened to some of the past ones, and it's really lit a fire under me for preparing for the high school season. So thanks for what you guys do. And now you got a fan forever, and I'll keep listening to all the episodes you guys put out.
Awesome, Coach. Best of luck this year, my man.
All right. Thank you, guys.